Welcome back to Sideways, a podcast about motorcycles in Taiwan. I'm your host, Michael Branica, and this is a very special episode because it takes place on location at Libao International Circuit. So you'll notice that the sound isn't quite as clean as I would really like it to be. As you can imagine, a motorcycle racing circuit is a very noisy place to be. There's a lot of spectators, and you'll see them wandering around and you'll hear them. And then in the middle of the podcast, we had people moving furniture around. It was a loud bang, bang, banging. And so that's subpar. But I think that the conversation is very relevant, and I hope you find it interesting. Listen on. Welcome back to another episode of Sideways, a podcast about motorcycles in Taiwan. And this is actually a very special episode because we're out here at Libao International Circuit. Yeah, and we're here in the kart track in the center. And I have a guest here, Robby Kilpatrick.
Yep.
And most people probably know you from the Taiwan Motorcycles rental group. And can you tell us a little bit about how that got started?
Basically, there was a time period that in Facebook where groups started becoming really big. It's probably about 6 years ago, right? And I was already heavily involved with the local motorcycle scene. And I had a lot of free times in my hand at work. And so basically, I decided there needs to be some kind of motorcycle group specifically for foreigners in Taiwan, because there was a lot of misinformation out there. There still is, but at that time it was even worse. And I think that there need to be a platform for people to buy scooters and motorcycles, sell, find parts, ask questions about any kind of regulations or rules that we have in Taiwan. Or if you just have any kind of questions about motorcycles, two wheels in general, it'd be a good place to have where we could just discuss and talk. Enthusiasts or newbies or people that are interested. So I basically just started about 6 years ago, and it slowly grew and grew into what it is today. And I think we have now about, 8,000 members, almost 8,000 members. So,
yeah, it's gotten really big and really active over time. Do you remember about the time that it started, when you started it?
It was 6 years ago. It was like 6.5 years ago, pretty much.
Which is 2015?
Yeah. I'm terrible at math, so.
2015. Right?
Okay, 2015. Okay. Yeah, it's about right.
Because I came in 2014 to Taiwan, and I thought it was actually going on at that time.
No, I don't think so yet.
Okay. Yeah. So, Facebook has really become a source of a lot of misinformation, and a lot of people have exited Facebook. I've taken a big step back. I barely get involved with it because of all the bad information that's on it.
I agree.
And all the vitriol and just really bad blood that happens.
I agree.
So what have you done to keep your group relevant?
I've tried my best to, as an admin, to keep basically the information to the task. And the task is to give people proper information about stuff in Taiwan, specifically Taiwan, and also about, of course, motorcycles in general. I've tried my best to not have, trolls. There are trolls all over Facebook. They like to comment and make terrible comments and rile people up and get them all flustered. And so if I see that happening, I know I've also kind of, at times I've been I can see people say I've been a troll as well. I've tried my best to stop that and basically just try to cut that out. If you have something appropriate to say, you want to help out, then that's what we want. If you're going to talk nonsense, I basically will just kind of give you a chance. Like, listen, you don't need to do that. If you don't like this group, it's not for you, I'll kick you out, you're gone. It's better that way. And then there's a lot of people that like to do like entertainment posts that have nothing to do with Taiwan, or they're just, silly videos. Those are just silly. We don't really need that. Crashing posts, we know there's a problem in Taiwan, specifically with the writing, right? And the locals, there are some problems, right? But we don't need to just see that, because it's gonna be bashing of the locals, and we don't. It's no need. It just can make the group toxic. And I know not everyone agrees with what I've done in the group, and I've learned on the way. You are now an admin. There's a few of us now. I think total there's 5 admins, right? Because it kind of got too big for me to handle. I was just spending so much time on it, right? So you guys have helped out a lot. So basically, we're just trying to create more of an environment more of a community for us that like two wheels enthusiasts to really help people with their needs. So.
Yeah, and I really appreciate, and I think a lot of people really appreciate what you've done with the group, and that it is a great place to buy and sell motorcycles and scooters, and then also get information.
Sure.
And just to touch on a point, like you said, when it comes to traffic, crashes, people driving badly, we just keep it off of the group because, there's other places for that. There are Taiwanese groups that are just dedicated to that kind of thing, and I'm on them. I find it entertaining.
Yeah, for sure.
And we all, the Taiwanese included, find a lot of the driving here to be subpar. But if you let that just run rampant and people just comment and comment and comment, it just turns into a Taiwan bashing spree.
Totally. We don't need that. Like we all know the problems right now. That's not. I know you could actually maybe argue and say, well, maybe we can help things and help, if we talk about it, which is possible, but really, we don't really need that. That's not the objective of the group, is to try to help with the traffic problems in Taiwan. It's more about helping foreigners understand about two wheels in Taiwan, or even outside of Taiwan, if they want to learn more about two wheels. Then,
Yeah, and we've talked about before how a lot of foreigners, they get to this point where, I need to teach the locals how to drive, because in my country people drive a lot better. But that just makes you look like a dick, honestly.
I agree.
And you won't change them. You will not change these people.
No.
Half the people who are driving really bad are over 55 or 60 years old, and they've been driving like this their whole life,
right.
And they're not about to change.
And even when you try and you're mad, and people, I hear stories sometimes in the group or other groups, and they yell at them, and what are you doing? And they don't understand. They still don't have a clue what they did wrong.
Yeah, I know.
So it's just the worst thing you can do is try to get in their face and try to correct their mistakes, because it's not going to help.
And it ends up making foreigners look bad. It makes all of us look bad.
Yeah, definitely, I agree.
And I've lived in quite a few different countries, and at some point, mainly in Australia, because they were kind of straightforward about how they view Americans. They're like, Americans are like this, and I was like, oh, people have some really strong stereotypes about Americans.
Sure.
And foreigners in general. And I think it's we kind of have to be ambassadors for foreigners and try and show a good face out there. But I didn't want to really get off topic on that. But that's okay, because this is a podcast, and I think this is relevant to what we're doing here. But I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to talk about racing. So can you tell us a little bit about how and when you got into racing here in Taiwan?
Sure. So if I go back even further in my life, my father is a big car collector. So I got into cars early on, right? I've always liked cars, and actually did some very amateur racing in the States. I did that for a few years in university. Fast forward, when I came to Taiwan in 2004, I always liked bikes. Sorry, I'll step back a little bit. I did get into motorcycles right before I came to Taiwan. So about, 2002, right, I started riding. And then when I came to Taiwan in 2004, of course, I bought basically the fastest 150cc race bike you get, Honda NSR 150. And I knew I wanted to get involved with the local racing scene here. And basically, I met another foreigner. His name is Kyle Shoemaker. And he's unfortunately not here today. Wang Kou-yi is his Chinese name. He usually races with me. But he bought a bike, I bought a bike. We were both friends, and we basically went out to a local track. And we started going out there in about 2007. And we just started, literally, I bought an old suit, old crusty gloves. I bought a helmet, and I just went out and didn't know what I was doing. And Kyle already had some training in motorcycle riding on the track. So he kind of showed me what's up. And it's because of my racing days, I already kind of knew a little bit about apexes and braking and stuff. So I learned riding positioning, just started doing. So we would just basically go out there during the week before work. We didn't work until late. And we started going all the time. And after a while, we met a whole crew of Taiwanese friends. That's actually the team I raced for, CSRT. And it just because of that, we just fell into it, of course. And I think I had my first race I think it was in 2008, right? And I raced pretty much about once every 2 months or so with actually this same league. It's called TMRRC. It's the highest level motorcycle racing, I guess you could say, in Taiwan. It's pretty professional. At that time, it wasn't as professional. It's gotten way better. And yeah, pretty much the whole time I've raced. I did take a big hiatus, a big break, but it's because we had a track that closed down and anyway. But yeah, so I've basically been right back in it full throttle since about 2017, I think. And I kind of got lucky, I met the right people. And also I was learning Chinese when I first got here. So coming to the racetrack and meeting the locals and becoming friends with them, I was always practicing my Chinese. So it was perfect for me because I love bikes. I like learning Chinese. So it was like something I just wanted to do pretty much every weekend. I'd come out and do it. So yeah, that's kind of how it started, and I got really lucky to fall into it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I know.
And so if somebody wanted to come out and do this, and maybe they have fairly minimal Chinese, let's say a track day. Let's say I've never been racing. I've never been to the track, and I want to kind of test my skills on the track. What kind of steps would you tell them to go through to get into it?
I'd first tell them that getting involved in racing is really expensive. So if that's something they need to figure out, about it's financially draining. So, but just going out and want to start track riding, that's easy. Basically you can pretty much do it with any motorcycle. Maybe not a cruiser so much, but there are a few local tracks. They're called just small go-karting tracks, There's a few around town. There's one down south. There's one in the middle of Taiwan. There's one up north. So kind of covers your bases for where you live here for the most part. There's actually one in Hualien as well. And to just go out there and just check it out first. See what other riders are doing, right? You do need gear. I strongly recommend a suit. Suits you can buy them used for pretty cheap. You can actually buy them new for not that much money. So for a new rider, he doesn't have to have a full suit. As long as he has riding pants, at least riding jeans, also a jacket, full face helmet, gloves, and at least riding shoes, right? For your first time out. Basically, just go out and ride. Try it. It's best if you know someone that already rides, maybe they can kind of help you out and bring you out there and give you some tips. But just go out and try it. Anyone that's faster than you on the track, that's experienced, will just move around you. You know what I mean? So you don't have to worry about always looking over your shoulder at other riders. You just get on track and check it out. If you like it, just keep going and start asking questions on any kind of forum boards or Facebook groups, and start watching YouTube videos about tracking, and just keep going out. And from there, you'll meet more people, you meet friends. And next thing you know, you might be, changing your whole bike, full suit, running DOT race tires, next thing you know, and running some really impressive times. So.
Yeah. So track bikes don't have mirrors because basically you pay attention to the things that are happening in front of you.
Yeah, you really don't need to worry too much about behind you.
Yeah, and so if you pick smooth lines, if you look online a little bit about lines, racing lines and hitting the apex and things, and you pick those predictable lines, even if you're slow, the faster riders will find a way around you.
Totally.
And it might scare you at first, but
you get used to it.
They're probably not going to hit you.
No, it's rare. It's rare you're going to get hit. Actually, I find track riding a lot safer than street riding, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Right? You just don't have to worry about people jumping out in front of you for the most part. You get the occasional dive bomb cut in on you and stuff, but it's usually not that bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so they're moving some furniture over there behind us. which is why the sound isn't going to be as good as I'd really like it to be. But anyway, we can't move, so we're going to keep cranking with it.
Keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, when you first start out, sometimes they might want you to tape up your lights or tape up your mirrors or something, but you can kind of leave everything on.
I usually, the light situation now, back in the day, that's kind of an old school thing, taping your lights, because they were made of glass.
Yeah.
Now they're not, so they're all plastic lights, so it's not a big of a deal. I usually tell people to remove their mirrors, new riders, or if you can maneuver them inwards. So you don't want to have access to looking at your mirrors. You don't want to do that. And also take off your plate. The reason for taking off your license plate is because if you do have a crash, you don't damage your plate. And a lot of times the actual plate can damage the actual tarmac of the track a little bit. Just the metal digging in. So it's just a safety precaution.
Yeah, and I guess there are some extreme situations where they have made people pay if they damaged the
that happened before, but I don't think that's happening anymore here in Taiwan. But it did. Yeah. Actually, this track in particular, Li Bao, at first open, they would make you try to pay for track damages.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous.
It's pretty ridiculous
because you pay a racing fee for that kind of thing.
Yeah,
to cover,
it kind of goes with
cover that kind of thing.
Crashes happen.
Yeah, people crash. Yeah,
expect that to happen.
So if somebody has been to a few track days and they kind of know their way around a track and they're like, hey, I want to try racing. In this previous race, a guy got out there for his first time in the 300 class and had a go. And Donnie, we were just talking to earlier. He went out, had a go. Can you kind of explain to people a little bit about what they need to do, what kind of bike that they should choose, and how they should prep their bike to start racing?
Sure. Well, we can take let's take his name as Benjamin, for example. He just did his first race here, and so he actually bought a 150cc, a GSX-R 150cc before, and he rode that for at least 6 months. It was basically completely stock. Later, he changed some brake components. I think he did change suspension. That's not necessary. So he did change some things. That's something that when you start getting fast in the track, you want to become even more faster. So of course you want to change components, right? You don't have to. So he did do that, and then he also would change his tires. He started out though on basically kind of a sport, like more of a super sport tire, or like between basically a, maybe you do, what kind of tire would it be? Like you do a few track days a year, but you also ride those tires in the street. They're not like a DOT race tire, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he started on that, and once he got basically over the limits of those tires, he actually did buy DOT race tires, right? So basically he started practicing, he felt more comfortable to the point where he was like, yeah, I would like to try racing now. I'm at that point where my times I think are okay enough to actually get on track with national organization. So there's in Taiwan, or even in anywhere in the world, it's probably best to start slow. He did start with a 150cc. He moved up, and then he actually bought a full race R3 already done. That's the way to do it. If you have an opportunity to buy a race bike, that's the way to do it. It's always way cheaper. You'll spend way more money on just building a race bike. Like me, I built a race bike, right? At that time, there weren't any full R3 race bikes yet when I was getting involved into this scene. So basically anything in the 150cc to 300cc to 400cc now with the Ninjas, everyone's using those now too, right? So those are the appropriate race bikes for Taiwan, and I think appropriate for home too, especially for newbies. You don't need a 600cc. You definitely don't need a 1000cc. Those are just way over the top. So once you think you're ready after you've been practicing, you do need to practice. You got to practice. Practicing helps so much. So maybe I would say almost maybe 6 months to at least a year of practice before you actually want to start racing. And then just find out more about the organization that you want to get involved with. You probably will have to go through some kind of licensing where you have to take some kind of test. For this particular event, TMRC, we had to go through a class and get a license. It's easy. It's nothing. It's like a half a day, a 3-hour, event on Saturday. Once you have that, you basically pay some money and then you have your racing license. And then you're ready to go. And you can sign up for any race you want. So Start slow. I always tell people that. There's no reason for people to just jump into it. They've never really raced before. Maybe they've been riding the street for years. They're knee dragging on the mountain roads, which I don't agree with, but it's a whole different ball game once you get on track. Guys that knee drag on mountain roads, they think they're fast. No, sorry, I love you guys, but when you get on the track, you're usually the slowest guys out there. It's a completely different ball game.
Yeah.
So start slow, small baby steps, and when you feel comfortable, start going up yourself.
Yeah, I've spent a couple of days on the track, and I did a class for that kind of thing, and I was just struck with, like, you think you're going fast on the road, but there's so many things going on. There's so many things you're paying attention to, and you're not pushing it anywhere near the limit of the bike.
Right.
When you come out of that turn down here, I don't know which turn that is, at full throttle, and you hit it just right, and then you go full throttle all the way down this straight into turn one. Like, it's another thing altogether.
Yeah.
Like, to go to turn one at the maximum thing and pushing those braking
You're
markers.
pushing everything. It's
crazy.
nonstop. The best braking you can do, the fastest, right? You want to get on the throttle as soon as possible. You know, you want to hit your apexes perfectly. It's just nonstop, right? And your brain is racing. Thankfully, you don't have to worry too much about what's in front of you, as in other vehicles or people or cyclists or pedestrians. You know what I mean? You just got to worry about catching the person in front of you, right? So, but there's just so much going on that people don't realize how physically and mentally exhausting it is, right? The one mistake, and either you're down, maybe hurt, or you hit someone else, now they're hurt. Bike is, hosed, got issues, or you just make a little mistake and you lose a couple seconds, and there goes your chances of winning. So it's just something that people don't realize what is going on with your entire body and mind at the same time.
Yeah, and if that's what you're into, it's something that you can always chase, because you'll always get better. I mean, you've been doing it 14 years, and I'm sure when you ride around here, you can find places in the track where you can pick up time. You're like, if I get on the gas just that much earlier, if I go into this corner and the bike is a little bit more settled, I can just pick up a little time in here. I can just pick up 10th.
It's funny you say that,
hundreds.
because I've been on this track now since it basically opened. It's been open for like 4 years. So I think I've done, this is, I think, my third year, or might even be my fourth year racing this track. This actually, we're filming right now. This S section right here is my least favorite part of the track, as in I'm the slowest there. And I'm constantly trying to figure out this S. This is where people catch me. Actually, my last race, I actually got passed when I was in first place on this corner. And I've been on this track so many times. I have so many hours on this track, and even me, with my experience, I can't figure out this corner right. I do different apexes, different braking points, and I can't get it right.
Yeah.
So you're always learning. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. It's just some people are better in different corners, or braking, or throttle control, and you're just always constantly working at it.
And everybody's bike is slightly different. When you watch MotoGP, you just get this appreciation for people that use the strategy of their bike and ride to their bike, and then they. In some races, you notice that one guy will be leading the whole time, and the other guy's following close, and then he overtakes toward the end, and he has such an advantage because he's been watching this guy ride his bike, and he knows where the rider and also the bike is weak, and where he can attack.
Yep.
Because even if you're really closely matched, there'll be one part of the track, one area that you're better in, and then another area that the other person is better in. And it's a lot of strategy. It's a lot of thinking.
It's a game. It's game.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's so fun. There's something about it. I know it's not for everybody, but it's so fun when you're out there chasing somebody in front of you that's basically on the same skill level as you, and the bike horsepower is the same, right? And you're just battling, and you're up on him, and then maybe you pass him. He's on, and then he passes you back, and you do this. And even though you obviously don't want him to pass you, it's fun. It's great. And you're like, how did he do that? And you got to go back and you try to chase him back. Sometimes you can get him, sometimes you can't. And it's just great. It's so much fun. I have a blast with it.
Yeah. So later in the day, Robby has a race, and he qualified on pole for your class.
Right. There's in this particular today. There's a B, and C, maybe D. I think it's just A, B, C class for 300 cc. So I qualified pole in the B class. For some reason, I'm always B class. Forever B. I actually have been in the A class, I think once, maybe twice. But I'm just on the cusp, basically. So I just wasn't fast enough. So in this particular race we have the 300 cc's together, which is basically just almost there's our threes. The 400 cc, which will be all 400 Ninjas and one RC390. And then the 250 cc's with a Honda CBR 250RR. We will all be together, but we're actually separated when it comes to the actual class. There's actually 3 classes in my race. Okay. So I actually have pole position, but I'm actually second on the grid because there was a CBR that actually is faster than me. But he's pole, and I'm also pole.
Yeah.
So it's a little confusing for people that don't really understand. They'll think like, oh, he's in second. I'm like, actually, I'm in first. But
yeah. So I'll try and get some video of that, and we'll interview you after the race, just a quick shakedown to see how that
hopefully
went.
I do well, right?
Yeah. Hopefully you do well. All right. Can you tell us about the race and how it went?
I won. That's it. This trusty guy here, even with some problems, hang in there and actually got me to first place. I started out in pole position in B class at 300, super 300, and and had a great start actually, and led the race until up to about lap 4. There were some crashes apparently. I don't know what happened, but there was unfortunately a red flag. Had to come back in, restart. Restarts are the worst. Takes you out of your zone. Everyone's already exhausted. Tires are cold. I didn't have my technician to help out with my tire warmers. We got that on film. Thank you, Donnie. And so anyway, after 10 minutes or so, we had a restart. I was still pole position. Had a decent start, I think. And pretty much immediately, another rider passed me, came out of nowhere. And basically, we fought until the entire race. We had 9 laps left. The whole race is 13 laps. And we basically battled each other. I passed him, he passed me back, I passed him. We had one or two maybe kind of almost touching each other. And fortunately, the second to last lap, I passed him, and I just held in front of him, played defense, and I managed to win. So I got lucky. Number 2 was a really good rider, and unfortunately, it wasn't his day. All right, but I appreciate it. This guy was great. It does have some minor problem, but we'll figure it out. Good enough.
If you guys are interested in more of this kind of content, like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments if you want to see more of this racing kind of content for Sideways, the podcast about motorcycling in Taiwan.